A 7.4 magnitude earthquake tore through western Colombia this morning, the strongest the country has felt in over a decade. The death toll has already climbed past 70, and officials warn it will keep rising. More than 30 buildings have collapsed in the city of Cali alone. Rescue crews are working 10 separate collapse sites right now. Hospitals in the disaster zone have evacuated patients into the streets, unwilling to risk aftershocks, bringing down already damaged wards. Colombia's government has declared a national emergency. This is your situation update for the morning of August 10th, 2026. All right, let's start with the epicenter itself, because this is the overnight breaking story. At 7:34 a.m. local time, the ground ruptured 5 kilometers from San Jose del Palmar, a small mountain community of roughly 4,800 people in Colombia's Choco department, about 240 kilometers west of the capital, Bogota. The U.S. Geological Survey placed the depth at 107 kilometers. That depth matters, and we'll get to why in a moment. Within seconds, shaking was reported as far away as Bogota, where office towers swayed and workers ran into the streets. The tremor didn't stop at Colombia's borders. It was felt in Ecuador, Panama, and Venezuela. Now here's the geological reason this earthquake was felt across 4 countries at once. This earthquake happened because the Nazca Plate, a slab of oceanic crust, is sliding or subducting beneath the South American plate along Colombia's Pacific margin. USGS analysis points to primarily strike-slip faulting, meaning the rock on either side of the fault mostly slid horizontally past itself, deep inside that descending slab. Here's the part that explains why this quake behaved the way it did. Because the rupture happened 107 kilometers down, what seismologists call an intermediate depth earthquake. The shaking at the surface was less violent than a shallow quake of the same size would have produced. But that same depth is also why it was felt over such a wide area. Energy from deep intermediate depth quakes spreads out and reaches far more people, even if it doesn't flatten everything directly above it. USGS records show this is the northern edge of a seismic zone that regularly produces earthquakes like this one along the length of the Andes. It is not unprecedented, but it is rare for a quake this size to strike this close to populated cities. In Pereira, ceiling panels came down inside the airport terminal as travelers took cover. In Manizales, the dome of the city's cathedral partially collapsed. In Cali, one of Colombia's largest cities, at least 30 buildings came down, according to Mayor Alejandro Eder. The clearest picture of the human toll is coming from the coffee-growing regions closest to the epicenter. Officials report roughly 40 deaths in Risaralda department, 27 in Valle del Cauca, and additional fatalities in Manizales. Cali's death toll has not yet been confirmed, even as rescue teams work through its collapsed structures. Rescue crews are currently working at 10 separate building collapse sites in Cali alone, with search operations extending into Pereira and Quibdó. Hospitals in the region evacuated patients outdoors as a precaution against aftershock damage. Social media footage, not yet officially verified, appears to show debris crushing a vehicle in Cali as the shaking hit. Now let's zoom out and look at the broader picture across Colombia, because San Jose del Palmar is not the only story here this morning. The USGS logged shaking intensity strong enough to be felt by well over 100,000 people across the region, with the nearest major population center, Cartago, sitting close to the epicenter. USGS's rapid impact model, a system called PAGER, currently estimates roughly a 1 in 3 chance this earthquake results in more than 1,000 total casualties once full damage assessments are in. This is landing on a region that is still raw. Just weeks ago, back-to-back earthquakes devastated neighboring Venezuela, destroying hundreds of buildings and killing more than 5,000 people. Families there are still searching the ruins for loved ones. For many Colombians, this morning's quake reopened that fear. Historically, Colombia has seen this kind of devastation before. In 1999, a magnitude 6.2 earthquake near the city of Armenia killed more than 1,100 people. This morning's 7.4 is significantly stronger. In Bogota, workers evacuated office towers and gathered in the streets as emergency sirens sounded and ambulances moved through the city. Richard Emblin, director of the city paper Bogota, described it as a jarring wake-up call for people across the capital, with the city's emergency response system activating within moments of the shaking. He noted that sirens were still sounding as aftershocks remained a possibility. The images coming out of Cali tell their own story. Patients wheeled out of hospital wards onto the street. Medical staff working outdoors rather than risk aftershocks inside damaged buildings. Choco's governor, Nubia Carolina Cordoba Cori, confirmed the region had just experienced a major earthquake and said officials are now watching closely for aftershocks. Colombia's newly inaugurated president, Abelardo de la Espriella, sworn in just days ago, on Friday, said he has personally taken charge of the government's response in San Jose del Palmar. He told residents the state is present and taking action. The national government has formally declared a state of emergency, freeing up federal resources for the affected departments. Rescue and assessment teams are being pushed into Chocó, Risaralda, Valle del Cauca, and Caldas as damage reports continue to come in from harder-to-reach mountain communities. Be honest about where the gaps still are. At this hour, full damage assessments from more remote parts of Chocó have not yet reached authorities in Bogotá. The number of confirmed deaths is expected to change, likely upward as those assessments come in. Now let's talk about what typically comes next, because that's what emergency managers are most focused on right now. The USGS has warned that aftershocks, some potentially strong enough to cause additional damage, are likely in the coming hours and days. For a quake this size, aftershock sequences can continue for months, gradually tapering off over time, though the strongest ones typically arrive early. That's the direct danger for anyone near already damaged structures. A building cracked but still standing after the main quake can come down in a moderate aftershock. Authorities are urging people in Chocó, Risaralda, and Valle del Cauca to stay out of visibly damaged buildings until they've been inspected. All right, let me give you a rapid summary of what you need to know right now if you're in the affected region. If you're in Chocó, Risaralda, Valle del Cauca, or Caldas, stay out of any building with visible cracks, leaning walls, or structural damage until it has been formally inspected. Aftershocks are expected. If you feel shaking, move away from windows, shelving, and unsecured furniture immediately. In Cali, Pereira, and Manizales, rescue operations are active around collapsed structures. Avoid those areas so emergency crews can work. If you have loved ones in the region, local authorities are asking people to use text messages rather than calls where possible, as networks in the hardest hit areas are under heavy strain. Follow official channels. Colombia's National Disaster Risk Management Agency and your departmental governor's office are the fastest updating sources for verified information, not social media. This section saves lives. If you're watching from inside the affected zone, please share this with anyone who needs it. This situation is still unfolding, and the death toll is very likely to rise as rescue teams reach harder to access communities. We'll bring you an update as soon as more confirmed information comes in. If you want to stay with us through this, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update.